Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting of Wednesday, November 15th, 2017. Can I have the roll call, please?
Dan Carey.
Present.
Peg Coniff. Here. Salem Derby.
Present.
Jennifer Hayes. J.P. Kaczynski.
Here.
Joe McCoy.
Here.
Dan Rist.
Here.
Tamara Smith. Here. Joy Winnie.
Here.
Okay. Please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can I please have a motion for the approval of the minutes of November 1st?
Almost. Second.
Motion is second, approval of the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? One abstention. The motion passes. Public speak time. If there's anyone here from the public who would like to address the council for something other than that's on the public hearings, please come to the podium and state your name.
Nicole LaChapelle, 123 East Street, Easthampton, Massachusetts. I would like to just say thank you for everyone in this room and the general public for the great dialogue we had over the last election season. But I also would publicly like to give a huge amount of credit for the financial stewardship that our current mayor, Mayor Cadger, has done and set our city up for going forward, and also recognize the tremendous amount of public service and dedication that Councilor Joy Winnie has shown. I look forward to a productive, wholesome transition into office, and want to thank everyone for their time, and I look forward to working with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public who would like to address the council? Please come on up, state your name.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Cushing, 143 Main Street, and I think there's this ordinance coming up about the safe community, and just to say I hope we can support something in our city, not to have everything lost in whatever happens procedurally. And just a resource I want to mention is Critical Connections is a nonprofit organization that's organized a number of different events, some of them here in Flywheel on working against extremism, white supremacist extremism and Islamic extremism, and a number of people have gone to them, and they've all been excellent. And on Friday, December 8th, from 9 to 4, they're having a Building Inclusive Communities Symposium, and it's going to be at Holyoke Community College, and it is featuring successive panel discussions with educators, law enforcement personnel, refugee organizations, interfaith clergy, government representatives, and other experts to analyze the racial and religious divides in our communities and explore the role each sector can play in building safer, more inclusive communities. And following the panel discussions, there'll be working groups, and they'll be drafting ideas to share within the Valley. And it's open to the public, so any one of us can go. I hope to go. Invite you all, anyone listening, to go. And certainly would share the report and information found with the city. And I don't know if there's someone who could take this, or should I email this possibly to the mayor to circulate
I can take it
to
and
departments?
give it to our city clerk.
Okay, perfect.
Great. Thank you. And this is this an announcement of that?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
taken from their website.
Okay.
Critical Connections.
Okay, great, thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to address the council on anything that's not on the public hearing? Okay, not seeing any. Let's move on then. So, communications from elected boards, committees, we have none. I usually like to say, any councilors have any announcements they want to make? Okay. We're down to Mayor Communications, Mayor Cadger.
Good evening. I know you have quite a few public hearings on your agenda today, so hopefully I don't take up too much time, but it's been an extremely active time. First of all, I'd like to congratulate all the newly elected people in our city. We had some school committee last night. We have city councilors. We have the mayor-elect. And so today, and I tried to make all the postings I could regarding our Facebook postings, and we did robocalls regarding the power outages. But I do need to mention it because today I was in Boston with our superintendent and also our school business manager. when the outages went out, and I just want to make sure I thank some people, especially our chief, to get the word out as what was happening, and obviously Nikki, my wonderful assistant, to get all our information through the offices and on Facebook about what was happening. I have a fantastic representative with Eversource, Mike, which I'm not going to even try to say his last, Vetavelli. It's not as hard to say as mine. But, and while we were there, just making sure we got all the information out. But I want to, especially, we had some very serious, what to the school was serious issues regarding food, which there's usually nothing more important than food. So getting the kids fed was a big deal, and Chartwell is our contractor for food, but the high school was fine because they have the generators. Whitebrook, so trying to get cold food, and Whitebrook was the problem. So Chartwell jumped in, got the cold sandwiches and out to the elementary schools, and we put in a call, thanks to the chief, getting us having Mike Superson call us, who we know is our champion forever and ever, and he was right there to deliver whatever sandwiches we might need for the students at Whitebrook, or exactly whatever was needed. Came out that we were able to take care of everything without his assistance, but the fact that this is what our community is, we have people like that are always just right there to do whatever it is, and of course it's usually Mike Superson. So I just wanted to thank Big East for that. A couple of other things that I wanted to bring up. These are a little different off our regular agenda, so to speak. I wanted to share with everybody as soon as I receive information that we have a couple of retirements coming up in our departments. John O'Connor, who's been our veterans agent, and I think you all are aware that he's not a city employee, so to speak. We have a district with Granby, South Hadley, and Easthampton, which is another one of our wonderful ways of conserving money by regionalizing. John is going to retire at the end of this year. And what I wanted to do, and I wanted to get a hold of everybody as soon as possible, is we posted John's position, and will be our 3 representatives, a Board of Selectmen from Granby, a select person from South Hadley, and myself are the parts of the district. And also we have a treasurer from Granby. So we'll be meeting to go over the applicants when the posting is done. And I just thought, and I don't assume anything, but I thought the mayor-elect might want to be involved in when we get all the applications in on the deadline, and maybe like to be part of the interview process. Seeing how technically we won't have a new veterans agent in before what we're estimating would be January, and John has graciously offered to stay on and and work with the new agent, and our district has figured it out that we actually have enough savings and in our reserve as a district for a month. So John gets up to a month. After that, we also have Susan Penna. A lot of you might not know her because she's in our basement area, but she is CDBG. When you hear of the CDBG, that's Sue Penna. She's going to be retiring maybe the end of the year, maybe the beginning of the year, but also we're going to be meeting on what, we've actually been looking at different things for that position. We've been using PVPC and the way CDBG changes have been made. So we're going to be looking at a lot of different discussions on that position. And she, again, we have all these gracious people. She has graciously said that she would be very willing to stay on part-time and help us out through the rest of the grant, that grant. The other one, I don't know, I obviously don't know who hears what, so I'm telling everybody at the same time, is that Jessica Allen has accepted a different position.
No.
And she will be leaving Easthampton as of December 13th. I'm extremely happy for Jessica, extremely proud of her, love working with her. And she has, the job that she has accepted, when I explain it to you, it is everything when you think of Jessica. These are all like just, it's almost, if you could think of a position to create for her, this would be it. It's in affordable housing, finance, and rehab construction. So what better place for her? It's with the private sector, and nothing to do with municipalities. But so I'm extremely happy for her, and this is a position that we have not posted yet. We will be, the job description for Jessica has been updated. You know, I work hand in hand with Jessica on many issues, so we've always made sure that her position directly reflects that position, and is just updated not even a year ago. So that position will, what I thought we would do on that one is I thought that I would like to post it so that we can get the word out and get as many qualified applicants as possible, and maybe put in an end date of maybe January 15th, something like that. You know, give people plenty of time. And then when the mayor-elect is sworn in as mayor on June, not on June, I keep saying June, on January 2nd, then she could go through all the applications, and it would be her appointment anyway. And I just think that it would be very odd, and not anything I would ever be interested in, is appointing somebody, you know, that would work directly with the new mayor. So, and it's great. It's actually great when you come in and you have wonderful employees already in place, but it's actually sometimes, you know, really nice and refreshing to be able to do that, to be able to have that appointment as yours. So that's the heavy. The other part is, you know, you don't hear from all of us often, and I think you probably all know how emotional I am anyway. And it's because of the great pride I have for our community, and I am extremely proud. And I know you guys at Finance Subcommittee heard me talk about this. Our financial standing, you know, in my opinion, we could not be in better financial standings right now. We have just finished our auditor finished the recap, and we just set the tax rate. But I have an extremely fantastic financial team that I've worked with. You know, I work with everybody directly, but the team that I've had in place is phenomenal. And who better to tell you? And here's a very odd thing, and it's a little complicated, so we don't need to get way too in depth, and you can ask all your questions to our auditor later on. But we've set the tax rate, and it actually went down. That's the good news, but I have to tell you that probably one of the reasons it went down is because our JP's already guessing it, is because our values went up. But that's also a very good thing, especially if you're in the market to sell your house. So Easthampton is known as, wherever I go, Easthampton is known as the place to live. How do I get there? How did it get like this? And there's no such thing as an overnight success. It got like this with, I would say, easily 15 years of, you know, moving along, and all the things that we put in place. You know, our business friendly, collaborating with with our businesses and our school administration, trying to be one unit. So one thing I have done from the beginning is try to bring everybody together, whether it's our bargaining units, whether it's the school and the city. We're one employer, and our business community. But I would love to have our auditor, who, by the way, is your appointment, say a few things about the recap, and also I think she would probably like to mention a few things about our financial standings. And I am so excited about where we are that I am hopeful that we will actually even improve our bond rating again, which, you know, 2 years ago it went up 2 points, which is incredible. So the fact that I'm hopeful that it'll even go up again. So, but who better to tell you about, you know, about our financial management and our status than Valerie, our auditor, who you She's not really usually here at our meetings, but she's always available for any questions that you might have. Valerie? It's time they shine for themselves.
Well, Karen asked me to speak a little bit. Not really sure what to say other than there is another reason. I mean, it's not just that the values went up, that our tax rate went down, but our total amount to be raised for taxes went down 0.4%. That's not a lot, but it says a lot for our sound financial practices. And I can't say enough about our financial team. The assessor is great. She knows her job. I mean, putting together the tax recap, the free cash, whatever we need to do, it's like a well-oiled machine. Everyone knows their job, everyone does it well, and it, just to brag, our community is one of the first communities that Scanlon audits in the year because he knows we're ready and we're good, so. Some of the sound financial practices that I'm talking about, one thing is, I believe, covering the snow and ice deficit with free cash. In the past, every year when we do the budget, we start behind the 8 ball. We're minus 200,000 or whatever before we even start putting the budget together. And this is a suggestion I made to Karen, and I want to thank Karen also because she's been really good to work for. She respects us. Each of the department heads knows that we know our jobs and asks the right questions. And when we make suggestions, generally she'll take them if they're for the good. And that was one of the suggestions that she took. And in that year when we had the $600,000 snow and ice, and we were looking at how do we do the budget, do we cut hours? That was the first year we did it at my suggestion, and we've done it every year since. And I think it's really helped to improve our financial position because we don't have to raise as much on the recap. Another thing that Melissa and I, Karen, talked about our bond rating. Melissa and I have been working very hard to try to get our bond rating up. Our last review, we did get it up, and we're working on getting it up on our next review. And part of that process is increasing our reserves, our stabilizations, and projections and certain reports that we're working on trying to establish so that when we have that next review, we'll go up again, hopefully. And that means lower interest rates, easier to borrow, and just, you know, good financial health. We've had several large grants that allowed us to make all kinds of improvements in the city, to our parks. You know, we've been very fortunate with Jessica and our planning department and all the grants we've had. And that has helped also with our bond rating because they look at those things in the community. Let's see. I don't know. Do you have any questions on the tax rate?
Council President.
Had a quick question about the process for the bond rating review. When is the next period that you expect to have that review process? Is there kind of a timeline? Does it happen regularly, or is it by special request?
So typically, we wouldn't do a bond rating request unless we were going to issue big bonds, which we haven't done in quite some time. And so I did ask our financial advisor when Karen announced that she was retiring if there was any reason to request that even before we'd issue large bonds. And he said that would be premature and not necessary. So typically, there is a cost to getting rated.
Right,
So typically, if we're going to go out for a bond, that's the time that it would be reviewed. So right now, I know we have some debt authorization, but it's couple $1 million, and what we do with those is typically short-term,
short-term
5-year
borrowing.
notes, so that we don't have to pay the issuance costs of like a 20-year bond.
Right.
And you can also mention about Clark is very excited about our stabilization.
Clark is very excited about our stabilization. I said, Clark, I just want to run this past you. And he said, really? And I said, yes. So there we go.
So if we do borrowing for school, then we'll be
Right,
looking
so
at-
if we were to borrow for like a building, let's say, should that happen, it's anything over 3 or 5 years, then we would have to get a rating. So the school is, if that should come to fruition, would probably be the next time, barring something else I'm unaware of.
Councilor Riss?
I just want to compliment everybody, because we just had a review of the Finance Committee reviewed moving money into stabilization, and the reason our bond rating is going to be good is because we have close to $4 million in stabilization accounts. Am I correct with that figure?
Yes.
That's a lot. And I believe it's the best condition of any city or town in the state of Massachusetts. I'm ready to say that.
It's not really true, but thank you.
Who's better? I want to know who.
So-
Because that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, our team is working together great. We have really good people, and they know their jobs, and, you know, we're doing a good job, so you should be
Well, we
happy.
don't see you enough, so thank you very much for your
welcome.
work as well. Thank you. Anyone else from, oh no, this is Mayor, I forgot. Okay, so we're now, we're way over for public hearings.
I need to move that we open the public hearings,
Second.
Mr. President.
All those in favor? Aye. Oppose, abstain, motion passes. Councilor Riss.
The first item up, there's 2 items that go together. The city ordinance amendment, which goes with any change in the pay plan, and the request from the mayor for a supplemental appropriation to fund a 1.5% cost of living adjustment for pay plan employees. I know the mayor has done this almost every year that she can, and it matches the union bargaining units that get a similar raise. So the Finance Committee wholeheartedly approved this 3-0.
And I'm basically going to reiterate what you said. These are the pay plan people. These are the only non-union group we have. And these are the people that I have worked alongside every single year for 23 years. Since I've become mayor, they will always get their cost of living raise. And it's always, I've made it as, you know, in conjunction with what the bargaining groups have gotten that year. So this 1.5, you know, fits right in line with that. And I certainly hope that you will look favorably, not just because they paraded up here either.
Okay. Is there anyone else from either the city or the public who would like to address this race? No? Okay, Councilor Riss.
Would the clerk confirm that I must do the ordinance first?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to move that the city amend the ordinance known as the Classification and Pay Plan by substituting Exhibit B salary and wage scale as on file in the office of the city clerk, dated January 1st, 2017, with the attached Exhibit B salary and wage scale, dated January 1st, 2018, and to establish the effective date of said substitution as 2018.
Okay, a motion, a second to change the Chapter Appendix 7, Section 7-18. Any additional questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Motion passes.
I will now ask for approval of the supplemental appropriation. The amount requested is $32,069 to be appropriated from free cash, to be appropriated to the pay plan employee personal services account, $32,069. The amount requested would be used for the following purpose: to provide funds for the 1.5% pay plan increase.
Second.
Do I need to have anyone ask if you want to come up for this?
No, we just discussed both of them,
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah. Barb, I don't need to ask public input on this? No. Okay. So there's is there a second? Did I hear? Okay, a motion, a second to the supplemental appropriation of $32,069. Additional questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Motion passes.
The next supplemental appropriation is because we need new voting machines. And so that everybody hears me quite clearly, the first question I asked, these are not new machines that are networked. We will not be hacked, just so that everybody knows that. I asked the clerk that right away. Our current machines are 22 years old. We will get $3,000 in trade. They're very similar to the machines we have now, but our clerk, Barbara, who is also the clerk, city clerk, indicates that they will function more efficiently. The maintenance, I think if you've read this, there's a maintenance account attached to these. That's already part of the budget. It's not new. Answer any questions if anyone has one. I think the mayor wants to say something.
Right, and as you know, our city clerk is also your clerk to the city council, and Barbara certainly was not going to let me forget about her voting machines. So we actually did talk about it last year. Barbara was half thinking that she wanted this, as you know, these are capital, out of the capital program, and she was thinking that she might need those last year and then decided that she could wait till this year, but she has basically reminded me every single week for the last 4 months. So please vote favorably on Barbara's voting.
Just a couple of other items I forgot to mention. There is a sixth machine also being ordered. It will be a spare machine, but also will help very much with the quick tabulation of, oh my God, I forget, what's the word?
If we ever are able to use it for early voting.
Early voting. And that has to be approved by the Senate, by the state.
By the state. The
Secretary of
process.
State. They haven't allowed that. But that would allow early voting to be tabulated a lot quicker. And it is the same optical scanning we have now, which means we do have a paper ballot in case we have to do a paper count. So nothing is really changing except they're not 22 years old. And they're covered in warranty for 2 years. Sorry, I didn't mention all that.
Anyone from the city or the public like to come and address the council on this appropriation? No? Okay, Councilor Rist.
I therefore move that we accept a supplemental appropriation request of $31,200 to be appropriated from free cash, $31,200, to be appropriated to city clerk elections capital replacement voting machines account, $31,200, for the purpose of providing funds for the replacement of voting machines.
Okay, motion second for supplemental appropriation of $31,200. Additional questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Oppose, abstain, motion passes.
I'm going to get the right one up. The next one is a supplemental appropriation from free cash for a new marked cruiser for the police department. Chief is here. He'll come up and explain them. This will take the last Crown Vic, which is a standard sedan, offline. It has 92,000 miles. It's a 2011. We're going to trade that one in. This gives us 12 SUVs, which is, we've determined, and I agree, is a better way to provide service for our police officers, especially in bad weather.
So I'm going to let the chief explain on the details of this, but this is a perfect example of, you know, when we're putting money in stabilization, the last thing I want is anybody to think that we're scrimping and saving to put money in stabilization. Stabilization is a great place to put money, but it's not because we're doing without. This is on the rotation. These are our capital projects. Our fleet could not be in better shape. And you've seen yourselves, you know, month to month, the things that have come before you for the capital. So our fleet is in tip-top shape, and I also never want to forget to mention that part of that too is in the past when we were not as able to, you know, get on the rotation and make sure we get these cruisers in as needed, the police department would use their drug enforcement money to buy several vehicles. So that it has also been an extreme savings for the city and has allowed us to use our capital and our free cash on other items, other capital projects, and the chief can better explain the vehicles than I can.
Good evening, councilors. Bob Alberti, your police chief. The vehicle that we're looking to replace is a 2011 Crown Vic. It's our last, as Councilor Rissa stated, it's our last rear-wheel drive sedan. So our fleet will be entirely all-wheel drive SUVs after we make this replacement. It's got, I think it's got about 100,000 miles on it, which is typical when we start rotating them out. We try to do, you know, a yearly rotation. So this will bring us to 9 SUVs. I often get the question, what is our fleet? So currently we have 8 SUVs, 1 Crown Vic, 2 admin SUVs, 2 detective sedans, 1 truck, and an RTV. So this is, as Councilor Riss alluded to, the reason we're going to the SUVs is obviously the all-wheel drive, more room. Gone are the days where we go back to the station to get our gear on a particular incident. We have all of our gear on our in our line cruisers now, and the SUVs provide you know, the room to do just that. As far as what we're going to do with this particular Crown Vic, we're still in discussions with the mayor and the DPW director, and I had a conversation this evening about whether we're going to trade it in or hand it down to other departments. It's usually a game time decision depending on the need of other departments and if it suits if the vehicle is suitable for what their needs may be. It certainly isn't suitable to keep on the road 24/7 round the clock as a police cruiser, but it may be used for something else.
Chief, just out of curiosity, how long does it take the city to have a car with 100,000 miles? Is that 2 years, 5 years? What is that?
It depends. The guy. So
2011.
yeah, it really depends. What we try to do is we try to cycle the cars so that the same car isn't on the street around the clock. So we try to have the shifts drive different cars per shift to try to spread out the mileage on the vehicles. So if we can get 5, 6, this one's a 2011. If we can get 4, 5, 6 years somewhere in there, we're in good shape. It also comes at a cost with regards to, you know, my line item for my maintenance of the vehicle, you know, vehicle maintenance line item. So it's kind of a give and take because at some point you just have to stop throwing bad money. They're good money at bad. I'm sorry.
Right. Any additional questions for the chief?
Quick question. What is the general residual value of a $100,000 7-year-old Crown Vic?
$1,000.
Sold. We'll talk later.
You need a car? She likes the lights.
That's right.
Take those off.
Okay, I have no more questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public would like to address?
I'm just going to finish that. That was a really good question. So one other thing that my assistant Nikki is just finishing up today is what we don't trade in, and we call it cleaning up the yard. We do a disposal every year, you know, auction, and just finished that yesterday was the bids were due. So we sell these beautiful vehicles if we don't trade them in, because sometimes the trade-in value is pretty nil. Yeah. We actually sell them. And what do we get today? Like over 10 grand? A little over, yeah. So that's another thing that we do out of our office, auction off the junk at the highway garage. Yeah. So I'll send you the list next year.
Thanks.
Okay, so anyone, in case the public, any questions from the public? Okay, Councilor Riss.
I'd like to move that the council accept a supplemental appropriation request for $50,000 to be appropriated from free cash, $50,000 to be appropriated to police capital FY18 Ford Utility Marked Cruiser, $50,000 for the following purpose: to provide funds for the purchase of a marked police cruiser.
Okay, a motion and a second for supplemental appropriation of $50,000 for the FY18 Utility Marked Cruiser. Additional questions or comments? Councilor Derby.
So I just wanted to say that I did do my due diligence as the person who wrote the fuel efficient vehicle ordinance years ago. We did. I did go to the finance meeting and discussed it. Shared my information with other councilors and the chief, and the chief and I did talk, and you know, and we came to agreement that, you know, it's too soon because it's not really there is a new hybrid police interceptor out that's made by Ford, but it hasn't finished its testing. So we agreed that maybe next time we'd be able to take a look at it at least and see if it might suit our needs. So we are, you know, trying to, and at the end of the day, what they're advertising is that it would save $4,000 a year in fuel costs, which I think is significant. So it's worth looking at.
How much would be the price of the vehicle?
I think it's comparable. Yeah. So anyway,
Well,
just wanted to say that.
Thank you for your persistence on that matter. You're welcome. Yes, yeah. Okay, so we have motion a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
The last item on our public hearing agenda is a request from the Department of Public Works for new water meters. These come around every year. We have 85% of the water meters in town are radio read. This amount, I think, if I remember, is 230 meters will be replaced. We also need to repair some of the radio meters that we've already done. So we have thousands of meters. We're catching up slowly but surely. Joe's here from the Department of Public Works, or Patty, if you have any questions. But this is something that we need to do. It's much more efficient because, as they said, we need good metering because it is our revenue fund for our water and sewer department. So we need to make sure that that metering is accurate. So the Finance Committee approved this 3-0 as well.
I think all the councilors certainly have experienced the water meter request before. So I won't, unless there's a specific question, I won't ask anyone from DPW up. Is there?
Just one question.
Okay, thanks, sir. Patty,
How many more do we have left?
Oh, yeah.
No, let them.
You can count it up.
No,
Patty.
less than 1,000.
Less than 1,000.
Not bad.
Although I have been told this will never end, because by the time we replace this.
Because we have to
Because
fix the
the-
ones
Yeah,
we already
exactly.
The
did.
first 1,000 will be done.
Okay, anyone from the public would like to address this appropriation? Okay, Councilor Rist.
I'd like to move that council approve a supplemental appropriation request for $50,000 to be appropriated from enterprise retained earnings, $50,000 to be appropriated to water capital FY18 new water meters, $50,000. Amount requested with the following purpose: to provide funds for new water meters.
Second. Motion is second to approve the supplemental appropriation of $50,000 for new water meters. Additional questions or comments, Councilor Rist?
I just wanted to mention that enterprise retained earnings is similar to our free cash account, but in the water department, in case anybody out there wants to know where this money comes from. It's a return like we get in free cash when all of our revenues are certified by the state, just so people understand what that account is. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Move the public hearings be closed.
Second.
Motion is second to close public hearings. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes. I believe we're at standing committees. Councilor Rist?
Yes, before I go on, as I'm also the chair of the CPA, or the Community Preservation Act, I want to invite all the counselors and everybody in the room and everybody hearing that we have our annual meeting in these chambers tomorrow night at 6:30. We will go over what the Community Preservation Act has done over the years, and we will read the preservation plan, which looks at what all of the stakeholders in town that are allowed to use the funds from the Community Preservation Act can request and have requested moving forward. So I invite everyone to attend 6:30 tomorrow night. Finance Committee will meet not this week, but on the 29th. And I would like to move that the School Building Committee request for school debit exclusion special election be moved to Finance Committee for review.
Second.
Okay, a motion is second to move to finance the request for the debit skill ballot question for this, for the 2.5 debt exclusion, sorry. You know what I mean. The school building. All
Easy for you to say.
all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
And that, at that night, I would ask that all the people involved with the school committee, perhaps Councilor Carey, you can mention to have people come to that meeting. That'll be on the 29th, and that's the only item on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes. Public safety, Councilor Carey.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee met last Wednesday to discuss the two items on our agenda. Pretty good meeting with representatives from the police department and the DPW and community members who live around School Street. We spent a lot of time talking about School Street. We're leaning towards, at this point, doing it one way during certain hours. And it seems to be that that's where the problem is during pickup and drop off because of the school. And so that's where the solution should be, is also during those times. There's some work left to be done. We want to meet with the school department, timing, the bus schedules. There's a mystery gate on Clark, which runs between Center and Pepin, that's not locked, that gets misused from time to time, and so we want to have some more discussions about that as well. So that's where that stands. The request to review wording of traffic rules and orders section 1-26. We voted, and that it has on for a public hearing at our next meeting, Wednesday, December 6th. Our next public safety meeting is the day before, December 5th. And I'd like to just also move this, it wasn't on our agenda, but it was at our seats here tonight. So it's a memo asking for consideration to amend traffic rules and orders section 1-24. And I'd like to move that to the public safety subcommittee.
Okay. Second. Councilor Durbin.
So I'm just wondering if Councilor Krasinski can let us know the impetus around this.
There have been several, the question is parking over on Pleasant Street between Arlington Street and Pleasant Green East. And the request is that we consider the possibility of making this a no parking zone. It looks like there's been lots of parking by folks from many folks from out of the area, parking up to the curb, over the driveways, and it's really causing quite a disturbance. So I think we need to have a discussion about how we maintain safety in those areas. So that's why we move that forward for discussion.
Okay. And I would just, I know we're not going to deliberate this, but I would just say that when we did change the traffic rules and orders for Pleasant Street, this was an area that we did look at pretty thoroughly with the chief and the director of DPW, and what we had decided at that point was that area to the curbs was going to get yellow paint, and I don't think that has been done yet. So I'm not against this coming to committee. Yeah, I'm not against this coming to the committee, but this has, we did review that area specifically, and part of that was saying that up to the curb cuts there was going to be a 20-foot buffer on either side. So I just
it may be the solution of this is
potentially that.
Making that.
Since we,
right.
yeah.
There may be some signage and...
Point of order, we're discussing something.
Sure. Okay.
Yep, so I just wanted to state
so
that.
we have a motion to move that to public safety additional, is there a second?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passed. And does that conclude?
It does.
Okay, appointments, Councilor Smith.
Thank you. The appointments subcommittee met tonight at 5 o'clock to discuss a number of mayoral appointments. A few things to note is that mayoral appointments are a term of every 3 years, so a lot of these are for 2020. And we had a discussion about all of the different term expiration and appointments. So I'm going to go through some of the, I'm just going to go through the names, and then I'll open it for discussion. And the first one is Martha Smith for the Board of Assessors with a term expiration of 12/31/2020. I want to note that every term expiration date that has an asterisk means that the person has already been in this position and that this is a continuation of their position. And I think it's important to note, as the mayor pointed out, that even during times of transition, the work of the mayor's office continues to have to be done, and this is a continuation of that. And so how do you want to do this, Joe? Do you want to do it individually or
No, yeah, I would
by committee?
just read,
all the 20.
yeah, just but read their name and their appointment. And yeah, I would just say I'll make a motion to accept and just go through. Then we'll have the motion, we'll have discussion in case anyone makes a comment on a particular one, and then we can. So I would just make a motion for all these names, and we can, if people have a particular name they want to make a comment.
Do you want me to read every name?
I think we have to.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to move to approve Martha Smith for the Board of Assessors as a term expiration of 12/31/2020. Barbara Lombard for Charity Funds Committee with a term expiration of 12/31/2020. Johns Fitzgibbon for the City Attorney with a term expiration of 12/31/18. Jessica Allen as the City Planner with a term expiration of 12/31/2020. Alita Kennedy for, I'm sorry, James Valancourt for the Commission of Disabilities with a term expiration of 12/31/2020.
Point of order?
Yes.
All the rest are 2020, so I'm not sure they.
There's 122.
No, there's one. There's 122. Sorry.
I think you're doing a great job.
You're doing great. Just trying to
I'm
be
at
helpful.
that age where I need bifocals, but I'm not there yet. So,
Well,
all right. James Valancourt for the Commission on Disability with a term expiration of 12/31/2020. Jessica Allen for the Commission on Disability with a term expiration of 12/31/2020. Alita Kennedy, Commission on Disability with a term expiration of 12/31/20. Angelique Baker, Commission on Disability with a term expiration of 12/31/20. Jessica Harwood, Conservation Commission with a term expiration of 12/31/20. Eileen Myers for the Council on Aging with a term expiration of 12/31/20. I just want to note that all of these appointments were approved at the subcommittee level. Eileen Myers, Joy Winnie abstained from that particular vote because of a personal relationship and relation with Eileen. Stanley Kroll for the Council on Aging with a term expiration of 12/31/20. Jessica Allen for ECA Plus with a term expiration of 12/31/20. Thomas Brown for the Economic Development and Industrial Commission, 12/31/20. David Boyle for the Economic and Industrial Commission, 12/31/20. Edward Swinnicki for the Housing Authority with a term expiration of 12/31/22. Barbara Lombard for the Manhan Rail Trail Committee, 12/31/20. Eleanor Kwalik for the Manhan Rail Trail Committee with a term expiration of 12/31/20. Paul Nowick for the Nashwanik Pond Committee with a term expiration of 2020. Audrey Havanan for the PLAE Board of Directors, 12/31/20. Edward Piziak Jr. for the Parks and Recreation Commission with a term expiration of 12/31/20. Harry Schuman for the Planning Board with a term expiration of 12/31/20. James Valancourt for the Planning Board, and just as a note, this is to be an associate member for a term expiration of 12/31/20. Dale Dorian for the School Building Committee, 12/31/20. David Motter, School Building Committee, 20. Karen Cadger, School Building Committee, 12/31/20. Nancy Follensby, School Building Committee, 12/31/20. Thomas Brown, School Building Committee, 12/31/20. Patrick Bruff, School Building Committee, 12/31/20. John Atwater, School Building Committee, 12/31/20. Judith Averill, School Building Committee, 12/31/20. And David Boyle, School Building Committee, 12/31/20. Maren Goldstein, School Building Committee, 12/31/20. And Melissa Zawatsky for School Building Committee with a term of 12/31/20. I'd also like to note that for Mayor Cadger on the School Building Committee, since her term as a mayor designee is the one that's continuing, we also thought it was most appropriate for the record to have her listed twice, and Karen Cadger of the School Building Committee as a non-continuing appointment, 12/31/20, just because that's one person playing two different roles. David Brown for the Veterans Council, 12/31/20. Ted Polakowski, Veterans Council, 12/31/20. Brian Dupuy, Veterans Council, 12/31/20. Mark Subox, Veterans Council, 12/31/20. And Ronald Bednars, Wire Inspector, 12/31/20.
Second.
Okay. So a motion and a second. And now any opportunities for any comments on any of these?
Good job.
Appointments? Councilor Rist.
I would like to thank, I don't know how many there are,
all of 30-some appointments, because I know the mayor has to ask, do you guys want to continue? I'm sure you don't just appoint them, you ask them. And it is wonderful that all of these people, we have another group of them coming next meeting, want to help us in our city and continue to help us. I'm particularly interested in thanking the mayor and Nancy Follansbee, both of whom are retiring, but they want to see this building get built properly, and they have a lot of knowledge. I'm thankful for that, because when people leave our city but still want to serve in some capacity, I like that. And I would also say that I hope that Councilor Winnie will consider being on one of these committees for us, because you have a lot of knowledge. Thank you.
Sure. Councilor Smith.
I just want to make sure that it's understandable for Nancy Follansbee, because this position, a lot of the positions on the school committee are mandated by the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Oh, I
One of
see.
those positions has to be the current mayor and has to be the superintendent. So when Nancy Follansbee retires, that position will be filled by the new mayor,
Oh, I
the
see.
new
Okay, well,
superintendent.
okay.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
And that's why we split Karen, so that
Right.
her mayor term and then as just a member.
Yep.
All right.
Councilor Harry.
I'm just wondering about Jessica Allen's appointment as city planner, if she's leaving on December 13th.
I had
And-
some thoughts.
We didn't know that when that was news to us, so that's,
So what, because didn't you mention her name like 3 times?
Well, she's on a lot of committees.
yeah.
She's on
But
the
will they continue?
city planner,
ECA
Commission
plus.
on Disability, and the last one is
ECA.
ECA Plus. And I'm not sure which one of those she's serving in an official capacity as the city planner off the top of my head, since I just learned that information. So we'll continue that next time.
Okay.
Councilor Riss.
She is a resident of Easthampton, and if she's not moving out of town, she
Right.
can serve on these committees. She can't be city planner, obviously.
Right.
Right, I
But
just
she can
I
serve
didn't
on
know
them.
if any of these other appointments, like a commission on disability, whether or not the city planner needs to be on that. I don't want to misspeak about it.
We don't know if her appointment is because she's city planner or because she's interested.
Right.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I obviously don't think there's any harm in putting this forward, so I don't think would be any need to change it. If obviously she's not here, that would be the.
We'll have it to reappoint.
Well, it depends on when the new one comes in and when she leaves. If it's going to overlap into January.
Right, so I guess, right, so
So-
it's safer to appoint her in case there's, when she leaves, right. Any more questions on any of the appointments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passed.
Abstain one.
Oh, one abstention, right. For one name.
One name.
Okay, thank you very much. And I believe you have new business, Counselor?
We do have new business. I would like to request that the following mayoral appointments be forwarded to the appointment subcommittee for consideration.
Second.
And should I read these all?
No, I think for the first time.
No.
Okay.
Next
Okay.
meeting.
So we have a motion and a second move to appointment subcommittee, the 13 new mayoral appointments. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
And I'd like to set the next meeting, what's the date of our next city council meeting? At 5:15 on December 6th.
Okay, thank you.
Thus concludes.
Thank you. Ordinance, Councilor Derby.
Thank you, Mr. President. The ordinance subcommittee will meet tomorrow evening at 6 p.m., I believe, in Thompson 1. And the first thing we're going to look at is the chicken issue. So if anybody's interested in chickens, come early. And there is a possibility if we are able to sort that out before 6:30 that we might take a brief recess to come to the CPA meeting and then re-adjourn to look at some of the other items on our agenda, just being aware of that. And that concludes.
Okay. Property, Councilor Kwasinski.
We'd like to bring forward the issue of extending the lease for the town hall and adjusting language so that it clearly conforms with the purchasing regulations. So I could read the change or the whole amount, which would you?
I would just mention just the part, because we voted on the other
We
one
voted on this
previously.
whole motion.
So why
It
don't
was
you
unanimous
mention the
before.
parts that were changed then?
Yes, we would be adding a couple of sections of it. That it would read, notwithstanding any general or special law to the contrary, but subject to Section 16, paragraph A, B, and G of Chapter 30B, which is the purchasing areas, and where it read 40 years would be extended to 44 years. And once again, the reason for the 44 years is that for accounting purposes, the historic preservation credits can't be counted until the renovations have been completed, and that takes time to order, complete, and then an additional 4 years would be helpful to have, to be sure that whoever may do renovations has an opportunity to have those be counted.
And the other additional language that was obviously sent back to us from the state.
Back from the state, and then they'll send it up and see if the legislature gives us authority to do so.
Okay. Is there a second for those changes?
Second.
Okay, so changes that Councilor Kwasniewski mentioned. Additional questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes. And Rules of Government Relations, Councilor Rist.
Yes, and I'm happy that the Easthampton Coalition people are here this evening. It is my take as chair of the committee that this should be taken up by the new council. But I am not going to make that decision on my own. I'm going to confer with my other committee members, and I would like to speak to both of you about it. I feel with a new council coming in and a new mayor, and the fact that this council has debated this issue under the ordinance committee at length with a lot of public hearings, that the new council should take up and listen to this issue. If we have a public hearing, I'm sure the new mayor will be at it. And if there's anything to be done on the mayor's side, she'll hear the same arguments as we might take up any change in our current anti-discrimination resolution, any new language. The council did receive a letter from our city attorney saying that it is the mayor's purview, that we cannot write an ordinance that directs the police department. Only the mayor can do that. And with a new mayor, if she should choose to do anything like that, that's where it should go. So I feel strongly that this discussion ought to happen after the new council. But I'm going to discuss this with my fellow committee members, and if you would like to stay after the meeting, I'll ask you how you feel about that. Okay? Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. And so there, we got old business. We finished the new business. So I guess at this point, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Motion carries.
So we got stuff to sign.
Members on the back.
Barbara?
Really?